Planning for a life after rugby might come naturally for some, while other professional rugby players sometimes happen to stumble into a career and build a successful business out of it. Former Wales and Harlequins player Olly Kohn knows this all too well as the co-owner of Jolly Hog Sausage Co in the United Kingdom. Olly, thank you for chatting with us here at the Rugby Business Network and sharing your story.
Good to be here. Thanks very much.
Well, before we speak about your business, let's first talk about Harlequins. The club is very close to your heart, having played for them for 7 years and ending your career there in 2013. With 4 years having now passed since retirement, you've had some time to sit back and reflect. What do you find you are missing most about your playing days?
It's an interesting one because, I'm 4 years post-retirement. I obviously miss what I love doing a lot. When you're a rugby player, you don't really... I didn't know how lucky I was because the lifestyle is a fantastic way of living. It's really hard graft. But, sometimes you can be sat there drinking a coffee between training, feeling a bit sore, maybe carrying a bit of an injury, and you don't realise how great it is. And then when you retire, you actually realise it was fantastic and it was great to be part of that and surrounded by 40, 50 really competitive guys that are all on the same page as you. And I think that's what I miss. I miss that team environment. I've actually got it in a similar, smaller way with the business we've got now, but I love that environment. I love being around that environment. Obviously, I miss the crack with the lads. I don't miss feeling like I've been in a car crash on a Sunday with my body and not being able to sleep. But I miss game day. I miss the excitement of that, and I miss the camaraderie of being around the guys.
Well, Olly, your international career with Wales is rather fascinating due to the somewhat bizarre nature of it. February 2nd, 2013, you made your one and only appearance for the Dragons off the substitutes bench in the Six Nations Open against Ireland at the Millennium Stadium. Do you remember that day like it was yesterday, and what was most special about it?
I think the lead up to the whole thing was just brilliant because it was something I didn't ever expect. I was very much coming towards the end of my career, and they had a few injuries. The way in which I got called up and the buzz around it was pretty interesting because it started off with some of the guys on Twitter, and then it built up from there. And then before I knew it, I was in camp, which I absolutely love being part of. And and the build up, leaving the hotel, going through all the villages through to the Millennium Stadium will be a trip I'll never forget. And I just the whole day was incredible, and the stadium was brilliant, and I loved being part of that squad. It was too short, unfortunately, and obviously the week after I got injured and didn't go and play against France, which was frustrating. And I only wish it was just a little bit longer and I played more of a part in that Six Nations campaign. But it was very short. It was like 7 or 8 minutes, and I get the mickey taken out of me because of it. But I loved it and felt very honoured to be part of that squad at that time.
Well, your international career ended as quickly as it started, but you still managed to play a few months towards the end of the 2013 season with Harlequins. However, you were forced to retire on surgeon's advice. How did you take that news at the time?
It was really tough. I still wanted to play on. I still had a couple more years I felt left in me, and I had a contract that I wanted to fulfil with Quins, but ultimately I came round and the surgeon just said there is no way you can play with a shoulder like that again. In fact, his words were, I can keep operating on this, but it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And that was it really. And I never wanted to hear that. I wanted to be able to retire on my own terms. But that's the way it is. And that's all part of it. Being injured, taking that is all part of being a professional rugby player and dealing with it. And that one was tough. But luckily I've got a really strong family. And do you know what? I feel really lucky that in my own little way I felt quite a lot in my career, more than I probably expected. So I didn't finish feeling like I had loads of unfinished business, which I think probably made it easier for me. Some of the things I achieved personally are very special for me in rugby. And, if I hadn't have achieved those, then maybe it would have been tougher. But for me, it was like, yeah, right, fair enough. Body's knackered. I'm a bit old and past it anyway. So it is what it is.
Injuries ending careers for professional rugby players, it's not uncommon, Olly. However, when that unexpected moment comes, you are either prepared for your life after rugby or you are not. Were you prepared for your sudden transition into a career outside of rugby?
Well, I don't think you're ever fully prepared. It's like when someone says to you, "Oh, are you ready to have your first kid?" And you go, "Yeah, we're ready," but you're not. You're never ready. But luckily, I really had. I thought about things quite a lot, and it was always part of my rugby career that I always said that I was going to develop myself outside of rugby, and that's massively important to me. Hence, why I wanted to set up the business. And some would say, I was fully prepared and I went seamlessly into it. That's not necessarily the case. I think, you still got to adjust to the real world. I'd say it's like just going into the real world. And but yeah, I think I think I had my options lined up, ready to go, and I'm really, really pleased I did. And I spent the time away from rugby, whether it be days off between training or in the evenings and afternoons, that I worked quite hard to make sure I was in a position where it was more of a smooth landing than a crash, and I had options, and so I'm pleased I did that.
Well, for our listeners who are perhaps not in the United Kingdom, or rather enjoy eating chicken over pork, they might not have heard of your business. Describe for us what the Jolly Hog is all about.
So the Jolly Hog is a pork business, believe it or not, and it started, so Jolly comes from Josh and Olly, Jolly, my brother's called Josh, and it goes back quite a way. 9 years ago, my wife bought me a sausage making machine for my birthday. I'd done my ACL, my knee, had a year out, and I became obsessed with making sausages. Absolutely loved it. I also did curing my own bacon, and I had a fantastic year out of rehabbing my knee and making sausages and learning the trade. And from there, we really kicked on, and I got Josh to pack in being a cabinet maker and come and chase the sausage dream with me, and we started to build it slowly from a barbecue in the car park at Harlequins. Sounds a bit bizarre because I was still a professional rugby player, and it kicked on from there really. And this proper family business. My middle brother, who was a shipbroker, had more of a finance background, so he gave us a bit more structure. Came on board 5 years ago, and then I retired 4 years ago. So 3 brothers. My parents are heavily involved, and there's 14 contracted people within the business now. And so we've got 3 elements of the business. So the first one is events and concessions, which is where we started. We've got contracts and stadiums, outdoor events, and then that's the events business. That's our bread and butter. It's where we started. And then we've got our retail business, which is the retail packs that we sell into some of the big multiple retailers like Sainsbury's. So we sell bacon and sausage into them. And then we've got our restaurant called Pigsty in Bristol, where we're from. That we're opening up our second restaurant this year. So it's all pork, and it's all come from a love of great, happy pork.
Well, your business with your brothers Josh and Max by your side, it's absolutely booming at the moment. Another fascinating story, though, worth mentioning, Olly, is perhaps what could have been seen as a turning point for your business, which came when you delivered a plastic bag of raw pork sausages to the door of a certain celebrity chef. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were doing a photo shoot with a very famous celebrity chef and a great guy called Michel Roux Jr. He's got a 2 Michelin star restaurant in central London, just off Park Lane, and I was having a chat with him, and the boys were like, "Oh, have you heard Ollie started making sausages?" And it was a bit embarrassing, to be honest, because it was very much the early days, and I was still learning through YouTube and reading a few books and speaking to a few local butchers, and he was like, "Well, you should bring some down." So still in my training kit the next day, I made some, and I took some down to him, to his restaurant, which is absolutely beautiful, total fine dining. incredible place and experience. And took him this plastic bag full of sausages and was really embarrassed, actually, because I didn't know him very well. And then, a couple of days later, it was National Sausage Week over here, which is kind of a big deal in our house. And he was on breakfast news that day, and they asked him what his favourite sausage was, and he said, the Jolly Hog, Olly Cohn's sausages. And the phone was off the hook, and from that day on, we were like, right, well, we've got something special here, and we're gonna chase this.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, on your website, www.jollyhoguk.com, on the welcome page, in bold letters, it states rather humorously, 3 brothers, no porkies. What is it like working with your 2 brothers, and what sort of a dynamic exists within a family-owned and operated business compared to others that are not?
It's interesting because, with the 3 brothers, no porkies, it's our logo, and we stand by it because we don't tell any porkies. We're honest. That's who we are. But the dynamic between the brothers is a question we always get asked, because it is a funny one, because we have 3 kind of really big lads. We've all got our own character. We're very close. First and foremost, we're very close, and I think actually we're really lucky, because having business partners that you trust is amazing. And we're a good team. Yeah, and 100% we argue, and we have a good Barney, but I think that's healthy. And we have disagreements, and we sort it out. But ultimately, we trust each other. In terms of the dynamic, we've all got our different skill sets. I don't know. I always say that if we were to describe it, Max would have a Excel spreadsheet. I would have a PowerPoint presentation, and Josh would have a pencil behind his ear. If that was to sort of describe how the dynamic works, Josh is more hands-on. He makes lots of our sausages, or made them, and is on the front line. I do quite a lot of the sales and marketing, commercial side of it, and then Max does a lot of the finance side of the business. But we're a good team, and it works well.
Well, Olly, I'm sure like any business, you've had your ups and downs. What are some of the challenges you've had to tackle along the way, and what skills as a rugby player do you often rely on to get through those moments?
I loved being in a competitive, ambitious environment where everyone is striving to be better. And I don't think you get that in all businesses and environments at all. Biggest challenge is finding great people to join our team. And then I think the second one is really, and this relates back to rugby, is just being outside of your comfort zone, because there were so many times in rugby that I was outside of my comfort zone. But you kind of, if you're not used to challenging yourself and putting yourself outside of that comfort zone, then it's hard. And in business, there's been loads of times, and there is even today. You go into environments or meetings or different situations where there isn't a manual for the Jolly Hog, and it sounds cheesy, but there isn't. There isn't a manual that says this is how you grow the Jolly Hog. So we're outside of our comfort zone quite a bit, but as long as you're okay with being outside of it, then it's not a problem. And I think that makes us quite a strong team, and I'd definitely take that from rugby, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, the Jolly Hog, as you mentioned a bit earlier, is made up of 3 parts: an event business, a retail business, and a restaurant business. With all of this achieved in the last 9 years, where do you look to expand going forward?
I think the things that are scalable within our business are retail. So selling more volume into retailers, more products. There's loads of great things you can do in retail with pork. And the range can grow. And then Pigsty, the restaurants, as I say, we're opening up our second site this year, and I think that for me is really scalable and is really exciting. And I think that's a side of the business that I think can grow. I think there's a real market over here for good quality casual dining that isn't expensive, good value for money, and I think we've got something unique. So I'm really excited about Pigsty. And then, alongside that, I think, events business is always what we're going to do. It's what we've started off doing, pop-up kitchens, serving food to the public, outdoor events. It's really good fun. Like, as I say, the guys are at Glastonbury now. It's also great for awareness, so getting out there, speaking to people, doing our marketing in an active way with our products on the front line is really good. So yeah, to answer your question, it's pigsty and retail. I think there'll be the growth, but I think we're really in a good position because all three of the businesses help grow our brand in different ways to different markets, and that's what we want to do. We want to grow a recognised premium pork brand.
Well, it's exciting times to look forward to, Olly. Does your business get involved with rugby in any capacity these days? And why do you think it's important for businesses of all types and sizes to support the sport?
Well, I've had so much out of the sport. If it wasn't for the network that I've built up through rugby, through friends, friends of friends, contacts, then we definitely wouldn't be in the position we're in. So I feel very lucky in that fact. On a day-to-day basis, we still have involvement with stadiums and rugby grounds and sports, whether it be rugby or cricket. But I think the biggest thing I'd like to do, and I want to do more of, is help other guys, other maybe younger guys that are in rugby at the moment that don't necessarily know what they want to do life after rugby, and want to develop some skills, because you really can drop off a cliff, I think, in terms of, talking about mental health and, what happens if you do snap your knee at the age of 22 and you have to retire. What do you do? And I think you can drop off a cliff, especially mentally. That side of it is tough. So I do help out in a small way with some people, but I think I'd like to be more involved in that side of it and helping others determine where their skill sets are after rugby.
Fantastic. Finally, Olly, with a registered turnover of £1.3 million just last year, I think they're going to listen when you have to give them business advice. Is there a secret to operating a successful company? And what would you tell aspiring business owners looking to get off the ground with their product or service?
I just think two things I would always focus on is surround yourself with good people, get good people, invest in good people and resource, because people are what drive a business forward, and people you can trust. And I've been lucky that I've kind of got those. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, is just be prepared to be outside of your comfort zone, because there's just so many times over the last few years I've looked back and yes, we've grown and we've had some nice success, but that's come from real hard work, hard graft. Nothing's been luck. And and it's been from being outside of my comfort zone, whether it being in a meeting with a retailer and me not knowing some of the terminology, or some of the finance bits that I wouldn't necessarily have learned being a rugby player. So I think just being outside your comfort zone and always having good people around you is massively important.
Advice to take to heart. Well, Olly, your story of turning a great idea into a successful business while playing professional rugby at the same time, it's encouraging and inspirational. We at the Rugby Business Network wish nothing but the best for you, your brothers and your business going forward.
Thanks very much. Good to speak to you.